Great Britain, land of the Beatles, Big Ben, the Queen. It's also home to some of the most influential cars ever made. Jaguar, Land Rover, Lotus. But one car stands out above the rest, or should I say below. The most British car of all time. One so iconic that they didn't change it for 40 years. It's the best-selling icon of British motoring that changed car design forever. It's also really cute. It is the most British thing since the Queen herself. Hello, Governor. This is everything you need to know. Hello, Governor. This is everything you need to know to get up to speed. Oh my God. This is everything you need to know to get up to speed on the Mini. The Mini was built to answer a question. Yo, how do we fit the most stuff in the smallest space possible? The Morris Company wanted a car that was efficient, roomy, small enough to conquer London traffic, and still be fun to blast down English B roads. The job was given to Morris head engineer Alec Issigonis, who had previously worked on the Morris Minor, another icon of British post-war design. In 1952, Morris and Austin had merged to create the British Motor Company. Issigonis and his team struggled to strike a balance between a small exterior and a roomy interior until they had a major breakthrough that would influence economy cars for decades. They turned the engine sideways and made it power the front wheels. This little tweak changed everything. The transverse engine mounting saved room in the engine compartment, which made the cabin bigger. Front-wheel drive eliminated a drive shaft to the back wheels, allowing for a flat floor, making more rear legroom. 4 fully grown adults could fit inside the impossibly small prototype. Even more impressive than the capacity was the car's maneuverability. The wheels were very close to each corner of the car, which blessed it with incredibly nimble handling. Issigonis was so committed to nailing the driving feel that Morris converted an airfield into a test track just so they could fine-tune the handling. Basically, they had the Top Gear test track a couple of years before James May was born. Once they had perfected the ride, the prototype was ready for mass production. While other manufacturers built their cars on an assembly line, Morris built their new car on a jig.
Jig-a-man.
Welding every piece of bodywork together piece by piece. The process was slow and meticulous, but it ensured quality fitment all the time. This commitment to precision in Minis would soon become one of the brand's defining factors. The Mini debuted as the Morris Mini Minor and Austin 7 in 1959, and people went batshit over it.
Whoa, that sounds so familiar. Bat droppings.
The small stature made it perfect for city driving, and driving it was fun. BMC was satisfied with the public's perception of the Mini as the practical family 4-seater, but they wanted the little rascal to be something more. Like when my dad told me I could be so much more if I just applied myself instead of just doing the bare minimum like I always do. Well, guess who's on internet now, Dad? So Morris did what any parent would do and signed the Mini up for some sports. BMC prepared cars to be entered in the Monte Carlo Rally in 1961. The race took place in January, meaning the scrappy little Mini had to deal with icy roads and snow, all while racing with Ferraris and Lotuses. The car did okay, leading its class until suffering an accident that ended the run. It was never gonna win with 34 horsepower, but while other cars were spitting out on the ice, the Mini's front-wheel drive gave it awesome grip in the crappy conditions. BMC and Issigonis knew they were onto something with this cool little front-wheel drive racer car. Good job, you little guy. Good job, you little Mini. You did so good in Monte Carlo. You did so good in Monte Carlo. We're very proud of you. I think he's a natural. No one saw the potential better than English racing legend John Cooper. Why is Cooper such a legend? Oh, well, nothing huge. He and his dad only changed Formula One forever when their mid-engined race car won back-to-back championships in the late 50s, convincing everyone else to go mid-engined, influencing race and road cars for decades to come. That's it. No big deal! Cooper saw the Minis racing in Monte Carlo and was like, do you guys really want to win? I can help you do that. And Issigonis was like, okay, chap. Cooper tuned up the tiny engines to make 70 horsepower and upgraded the brakes. The result was the Mini Cooper S. Ever heard of it? John Cooper and the gang took the Mini back to Monaco in 1964 and kicked everyone's ass. ass. Then they went back the next year and kicked everyone's ass again. The next year they won again, but they were disqualified because they had the wrong light bulbs in their headlights. Seriously? But Mini didn't get discouraged. They came back the next year and won again. The repeated success of the Mini Cooper proved that you didn't need to have hundreds of horsepower and an Italian name to win races. You just needed heart. So many people were inspired by the Mini's rally outings that they began to race Minis on their own, both in Mini class leagues and against other sports cars. The go-kart-like handling made it a force to be reckoned with on road courses. Here's the crazy thing about Minis. They were made for over 40 years with like 1 million engine options and little changes here and there to make them safer, but the look hardly changed at all. To the untrained eye, the classic Mini that rolled off the assembly line in 2000 would be nearly indistinguishable from one made in the early 60s. That's how much people love the Mini. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Make little changes. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. But this doesn't mean there wasn't some experimentation with the Mini formula. God knows we've all experimented. Hey, Chris. 1960 saw the introduction of the Mini Van, not the Mini Van, but the Mini Van, which was like any other panel van of the era, but mini. That same year, there was an Estate, which is British for station wagon. The Estate even had wood trim, giving it the nickname Woody. The next year, a Mini pickup was introduced with a bed big enough for like a box. Perhaps the strangest Mini ever was the Mini Moat. And I'm not kidding, this is actually real. It's an off-road version developed for military use. The British Army and Royal Marines took one look at the puny Jeep wannabe and they were like, you know what? Mate, we're good. Lack of military interest notwithstanding, BMC produced the Moke anyway and it became a cult classic. But by far the coolest Mini variant was the ERA Mini Turbo, released in 1989. This wide-bodied performance hatchback made 100 horsepower and was the only classic Mini to come from the factory with a turbo. It had a top speed of 115 miles per hour, which actually sounds terrifying. Have you ever driven a Mini? It's scary. The car was built by English Racing Automobiles, a company that specialized in building Grand Prix cars in the 1930s. Mini's parent company at the time, Rover, wanted ERA to build a performance-based Mini in the spirit of the Cooper S. Only 436 ERA turbos were ever sold, and most of them went to Japan, so they're super dupes rare. In 1994, BMW bought the Rover Group, and development of a new car started right away. Rover kept building the classic Mini until BMW sold them to Ford in 2000. The last classic Mini to roll off the line was built the same way it had been built for decades, by hand. In late 2000, BMW rolled out the new Mini Cooper. The old king was dead, but his son had taken the throne. The Mini Cooper was unmistakably Mini, with round headlights and a signature white roof. Yeah, it was a little bigger than the old one, but compared to other cars on the road, it was still pretty Mini. Many Mini purists weren't completely convinced it was a proper replacement, but that didn't matter because the new Mini was an immediate commercial success. As a tribute to John Cooper, BMW revived the Cooper S name for the sport version. The Cooper S was powered by a supercharged 1.6-liter engine, making 160 horsepower, giving it a better power-to-weight ratio than the original. These things are rad. The block is cast iron, so you can tune the hell out of it without worrying about blowing up, and it handles twisty roads just as well as the old one. The Mini's like, yo, Dad, I'm bigger than you, and I'm faster than you! Which is the opposite of me. I am smaller and slower than my dad. Like the Mini of old, the brand started introducing fresh models to expand the brand. You got the Mini Convertible in 2005, which is great for California, but not ideal for rainy Britain, where it was born. In 2007, Mini introduced a diesel version, which we never got in the States because we never get diesel cars. It's like, hey, where's the diesel pump? And the guy's like, oh, across town. And you're like, what? Yeah, we don't really import that many diesel cars over here, so. 2008 gave us the Mini Clubman, which was a little longer for more legroom and had a weird little baby door on the right side and barn doors in the back. In 2011, Mini unveiled their very first crossover, the Countryman. It had all-wheel drive, more ground clearance, and was all beefed up like that kid in junior high who went through puberty over summer break and beat everyone's ass now. Daryl, I know I used to take your lunch money, but can we work this out? I'm sorry, I'm not bullying anymore. The Countryman also marked Mini's return to the rally scene, both in the backwoods and rallycross events all over the world. The roided out Mini won the brutal Dakar Rally 4 freaking times, making it one of the toughest rally cars ever. The variation in the Mini lineup established the brand not only as quirky novelty, but a legitimate family to choose from. The crown jewel in the lineup being the John Cooper Works model. These are the fastest Minis you can buy, with turbocharged engines making 220 horsepower. They've got functional brake ducts in the front to keep your brakes cool while you're tearing up the track. If you thought Mini forgot about its heritage, you're dead wrong. These things are real sports cars. I mean, it's British racing green with red stripes. Those colors don't even match. It's like Christmas race car. That's race cars, man. The Mini is truly an icon. The British love this car. In 2015, they voted it the most British car of all time, beating out the Land Rover, the Jaguar E-Type, and the Horse and Carriage. No car better encapsulates British sensibility than this quirky economy car. All right, we obviously missed some things, so feel free to tell us what. If you have a Mini, let's see them. Is the new Mini really a true Mini? If you're a British girl, hit me up. Why don't any girls ever message us? It's all guys. If you're British, how often do you say pip pip? Say what's up to the Queen for me. We got some more shows going on. We're gonna have a science show. Our buddy Bart's hosting it. It's gonna be really funny and really educational. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Cheerio!